For these questions, we're going to find the quotient. And remember, a quotient is just the answer to a division problem. And all of these division problems we're going to be looking at have a divisor of 100. We haven't really learned how to divide big numbers like this, but for these types of problems, you don't need to know that, because if you understand our place value system, you can do this really easily without doing any steps of division. So let's look at how this works. So in our place value, the relationship between one place and another is like this. If you move one place to the right, you have divided by 10. So if you have a $100 bill, it would take 10 $10 bills to make it. A 10 is 10 times smaller than 100. Well, if you move from the tens place to the ones place, that's also dividing by 10. If you have a $10 bill and you turn them into ones, you'll have 10 of those, because a 1 is 10 times smaller than a 10. But what happens if you go straight from the hundreds place to the ones place? If you do that, it's like dividing by 10, which ends up being divided by 100. And you can think about that because if you have a $100 bill and you cashed it in for ones, you would have 100 of those. A 1 is 100 times smaller than a $100 bill. So when we think about that to help us solve these problems, what we can understand is that if we have a number and we shift it 2 places to the right, that's the same thing as dividing by 100. So let's look at an example. So if we have the number 3,960, if we want to divide it by 100, we need to take each digit of the number and move it 2 places to the right. So the ones place would move to the hundredths place. The tens place would move to the tenths place. The hundreds place would move to the ones place, and the thousands place would move to the tens place. So our new number, our quotient, would be 39 and 60 hundredths. That's our answer. And you'll notice it uses the same digits. It's just the place that each digit is in changes. And you can really think about that if you pay attention to where the decimal point would go if there was one in this dividend, 3,960. The invisible decimal is actually right there. So that means this 0 was in the ones place. But look where it is now. It's 2 digits to the right in the hundredths place. So if you take this invisible decimal and you move it 2 places to the left and let it land right there, it would be the same thing as taking each digit and moving them 2 spots to the right. So this is a strategy that you can use when you're dividing by 100. So let's look at number 3 and use that same strategy. So right now, the decimal point is positioned right there. But if we want to divide it by 100, instead of moving each digit 2 places to the right, what we can do is move the decimal 2 places to the left. And our decimal would end up being right here. So 2,110 divided by 100 is 21 and 10 hundredths. So let's look again at number 5. Right now, our decimal is positioned right here. Even though it's invisible, it's still there. And we need to move it 2 places to the left. And so it would end up being right there. So 8,591 divided by 100 is 85 and 91 hundredths. All right, you practice some of them on your own. And if you're still having a hard time, you can come back and rewatch the video. Good luck.